Welcome to this online video workshop on physical activity during the school day from California Project Lean and the California School Boards Association. This workshop will explore opportunities and low-cost strategies for increasing physical activity for students during the school day. Since students spend a significant amount of time at school or in school-related activities, schools play a central role in providing opportunities for students to engage in regular physical activity. This panel of experts will share some information on a variety of strategies such as recess, lunchtime activity, and classroom-based physical activity. Let me introduce our speakers today. Shelly Masur was first appointed to the Redwood City School Board in 2005 and has been selected twice since then. She currently serves as the president of the San Mateo County School Board Association. She holds a master's degree in public health and has more than 15 years of experience in adolescent health and youth services. Matt Diskin is a physical education specialist and special education teacher with the Gateway Unified School District in Shasta County. He's also a football coach and physical education teacher at Shasta College. Mr. Diskin has been teaching for more than 20 years and holds a master's degree in science kinesiology from Humboldt State University. Nice to have you both with us today.
Thanks for having us.
This is an important topic, and I know that a lot of people don't realize how important it is, and that's one of the things we want to talk about today. Let me start with you, Matt, if we might. Why is physical activity so important? And I guess, first of all, how much physical activity should students get?
Well, we suggest, and I feel it's imperative, that we get quality physical education 60 minutes a day. MVPA, what we call moderate to vigorous physical activity, would be ideal. We're mandated for 200 minutes every 2 weeks. But the key is having quality PE, not just roll out the ball and play and run around, but to really have a structured, appropriate lesson that fits the child's needs at their level.
Give me a little more detail on what you consider quality PE. In other words, how moderate, how physical?
Maximum participation, not standing in line, not sitting in a circle like in Duck, Duck, Goose where one child's skipping and 19 are sitting. This creates frustration, whereas participation creates success and enjoyment. It should be non-threatening. It should be a class that children want to participate in, where the value comes in the lesson. And everybody has the opportunity to move in a non-threatening manner and has an opportunity to succeed.
Can I talk a little bit more about value? Do you see a cause-effect relationship between students who have an adequate amount of physical activity and the kind of success they have in school? Is there that kind of cause-effect that you can see?
Absolutely. And there's strong research shows that there's a direct link between physical activity and academic achievement. It makes sense. The brain's a muscle, an elaborate, sophisticated muscle. Muscles work better when you warm them up.
If I could just add, one of the things we've seen in our school district in Redwood City is that we were actually able to link individual children's test scores with their scores on physical activity tests that we do here in California. And what we could see across the board at the different grade levels was as kids' physical activity scores went up, their academic test scores went up as well. Conversely, when their physical activity scores went down, physical fitness scores went down, their test scores went down as well. So I think one of the things that has really been critical for us, if you're sitting in a position of needing to be particularly concerned about student achievement for a whole variety of reasons, is to really think about how you're able to connect the physical activity with the academic achievement and make that case to whoever you need to make the case.
I see. And do you see that in the district, in the students you work with?
Absolutely. And not only that, the behaviors. The behaviors improve because physical activity is enjoyable. At a certain when the heart rate goes up, we experience an endorphin release, epinephrine, dopamine, serotonin. These are all pleasing, and with that release comes a calming effect. We're quick to medicate children, yet sometimes all they might need is a good dose of physical activity. Yet when they act up, one of the first things we do is take away the activity. It exacerbates a bad situation.
Now, you've talked about cause and effect, and we'll probably talk about that a little more, but I want to talk about, one of the things that districts face is there's economic considerations. Are there low-cost strategies that districts or schools can take, or parents or educators can take, to implement and encourage physical activity within the school or the school district?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about what we've done, and I know Matt's done some really innovative things as well. One of the things that we did is we utilized our community partnerships and developed an activity guide for our teachers so that they're able to incorporate excuse me, small bits of physical activity throughout the day, say 5 or 10 minutes as they're switching between one lesson to another. We've been able to train teachers using some teacher leaders who are trained on using that, and then they go back to their school and train the other teachers in their school, as well as using community partnerships. So we have community partners who come in and actually provide some of the physical activity for our kids. It gives our teachers a little bit of a break, and it doesn't cost us any money. So that has worked quite well for you then? For our district, it's been great. We don't have PE teachers for we're a K through 8 district. We don't have PE teachers for our K through 5 kids. So this is a way that we can make sure that they're getting the 60 minutes of recommended physical activity. That's one solution. What about other low-cost approaches to making sure that physical activity is an important part of the program?
We've done it both ways. We've written a $1 million grant, hence the elaborate physical activity labs, which were fabulous. And at the same token, in tough times, you can go through a catalog, this is marketing, of equipment, and 5-dot mats are $55 a piece, and polydots are $49 for 12, and cones, it adds up. Well, I did it with $16 worth of spray paint on the blacktop, where we made the same obstacle courses that we use the expensive equipment with when we ran out of money. I mean, we did that years ago with chalk in the street. The one thing we keep forgetting is kids have this innate ability to play. It comes, and all you need to do is just add a little creativity. Kids play in all cultures. And what's the response from the kids? How do they know the difference about what's going on, or are they perfectly willing to accept what you've got on the playground? If you do it right, they're going to play. It's like, the old Christmas story, does a kid play the toy or the box? They have the missing link. They have that imagination, and it's like a spark. And if you do it right, it doesn't take a lot of money to throw gas on that spark and turn it into a fire. One of the other things that comes into play is there is a limited amount of time during the school day. So utilizing time that might otherwise not be utilized can come into play. Lunch, recess, are these elements that come into play with regard to making a decision as to whether or not we're going to have time to have physical activity during the day? Absolutely. I don't see them as limitations. I see them as opportunities. We took our recesses at Grand Oak School and piggybacked them to the PE class, hence giving them an instruction that's within the framework, that's appropriate for them, and now having what we call the structured recess, where the physical education teacher gives a lesson for part of the lesson, an actual lesson, and then becomes a recess coach, as it were. And we reintroduce the rules, and we reintroduce the behaviors. And so it becomes a piggyback situation where we get the maximum minutes, we cover the recess, and we emphasize the lesson. And what's the response from the youngsters? Are they willing to take part in that? Absolutely. Are they happy to do so? Yes, not always 100%, but these are children. And yet we've had a great response. And it's been successful and well received. Shelly, let me ask you, because you're involved in many levels on school boards and input from the community as well. What can boards do to ensure that physical activity programs are being considered and then also being implemented? Well, one of the first and most important things that I think boards need to do is to set some goals that establish physical activity as a priority within your district. So within our district, we've set goals that include physical well-being as part of what we are striving for within our kids. Another thing that boards do need to do is, most of us have had to set wellness policy. So you need to look at your policy and then all of your policies to see how they align with what your wellness policy says. Those policies can do things like supporting partnerships that I talked about before. They can support a wellness committee so that the wellness committee has active input into what's going on throughout the district.
And we can look at things like withholding physical activity as a punishment. A lot of times I think what we see is kids get benched, as Matt was sort of talking about, because they've misbehaved. When we do that, we're just exacerbating the problem. So ensuring that in our policies we are paying attention to things like that. The other big role that boards play is in setting the budget. We're all in tight budget time, so we're not going to be allocating a lot of new money, but just in thinking about how do we allocate the monies that we have so that it sets physical activity as a priority within our budget structure.
Let me ask a question of both of you. What kind of training might we look at that the district might provide to playground supervisors and others who work with the youngsters to ensure that physical activity is being given the profile that it should? Let me start with you, Shelly.
Well, I'll go back to my role as a board member. So in the way that we set our policy, we need to do things like making sure that the training incorporates how do you provide playground management in a way that doesn't make kids sit out if they are having a problem. We also need to be providing money for some level of professional development. Our playground supervisors are often people who just come onto the campus just for that very short time. They don't get a lot of time with the kids and they don't usually get a lot of training. So if we can put aside a small amount in our budgets that makes that possible, they're better able to manage the playground, the kids are better able to play, and everybody wins in that situation. And I'll let Matt talk a little bit about it too.
Now, there are many, many avenues that are inexpensive and free. Websites, curriculum that are not necessarily directed towards the physical education specialist, but to the layperson as well, who again, can be the conduit between the structured lesson. I feel that training is imperative, updating a training, but not in a do it this way manner. Bring your talents to the table. Everybody has a talent in movement. I mean, some people are dancers, some people are lifters, but bringing that really broadens the opportunity for children to move. So sometimes we want to put an idea in a person's head, but sometimes they bring it to the table themselves.
I just wanted to add another thing that we've been able to do in our district with one of our community partners, which is that some of the older kids are trained as playground coaches for the younger kids.
Okay.
It's actually a great program, and so it does help provide that structure. A few more eyes on the playground, so you put the 5th graders out with the kindergartners, they get an opportunity to be leaders, they learn how to play playground games, and they are also providing some of that structure that we talked about that kids might need to sort of figure out. Kids don't get to go outside so much anymore and bounce a ball like many of us sort of played in the street. And for a lot of our kids that doesn't happen. So they learn how to do things like play foursquare or jump rope, and they have the older kids teaching the younger kids, and just adds a little bit more balance to the recess time.
I want to follow up with one final question, and that would be a little bit from both of you. What's the kind of response that you get from the community? Obviously things have changed, people are seeing change, parents would see change, and obviously the benefits that you talked about, some people will put it together, oh, cause and effect, I see what's going on. What kind of response do you get from the community when they see how important physical activity is, Matt?
Well, at first, it's like anything you introduce in a school, it's going to be subject to criticism, and that's the given. But you get past that and you show them value. Any community is going to embrace value. Now, when I bring the college students to work with the kids, we use the high school kids in what we call the leadership program, where we have a really good ratio between adult and child, 5 to 1, 4 to 1. They like that because their child's involved, they're giving an opportunity to succeed. And where it really pays off is when a kid goes home and says, I like this. I want to go to school tomorrow. Tomorrow's intramurals. Tomorrow's flag football. Tomorrow's prize shoot. Tomorrow's lunchtime challenge. This afternoon's Friday league. I mean, that's what really gets the parent. When a child comes home and says good things, we know the result. When a child comes home and says bad things, well, we know the result there too. So the big kick was when we raised the academic scores, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but when that happens, then it becomes the win-win.
Shelly, you were talking about raising the academics with just information you have, but let's talk a moment again. You may want to recap that, but also the response from the community that you've seen.
You know, what we do see is that parents want two things. They want their kids to do well in school, and they want their kids in general to be physically fit. They may not know how to do either one of those things. In our district, we have a very diverse population of kids. And so what we see is we have a lot of parents demanding physical activity, but there's no money to support it. And we have parents who want to make sure that their kids are learning. So we need to, what our job is to educate our families on how those two things go together. So using things like the study that I talked about, where we could show a strong correlation between physical fitness and academic achievement, it helps us, as Matt said, make the case for why it's important. I think people inherently know that physical activity is important, but we just haven't quite figured out how to fit it into all the new demands on schools. And so sort of making small shifts as we go along, helping people move slowly through the changes that bring us back to more sort of what many of us might have experienced when we were in school as a regular school day, so that that becomes a regular part of the school day for our kids who are in school right now.
And the payoff, as we've said, is it can be valuable for parents and for students alike. So
Exactly.
This has been very valuable information. Thank you for sharing it with us today. It's been an interesting conversation.
Thank you for having us.
And we'd like to thank our participants and panelists for taking part in the program. And we'd like to direct you to the following resources for more information on the topic. Thanks for being with us.